Welcome to the second part of our session today, the most loved part, the gist of everything, where the meat is. We did discuss the introduction in the previous session, and now we just introduced this session. Now let's get right into it. There is one thing we need to know first before we go on with anything, that Africa is the best continent to be in the entire world. You don't want to be anywhere else right now but in this continent. See what Irene Yuan says about Africa and about the future of Africa. Well, she says Africa is the world's next great manufacturing center, potentially capturing part of the 100 million labor intensive manufacturing jobs that will leave China by 2030. We must remember that China is the center of manufacturing in the entire world, is the go-to place for manufacturing. And now Irene is saying here today, Africa is the next best place for manufacturing. That says a lot about our industrialization plans. And that is why we are having these sessions. We need to know where we are as a continent, and we need to know what we're going to do. Then let's just look at what we're going to be covering today in this session. Well, we'll be talking about just a little bit of a highlight about the top 20. We can't finish a session without talking about the top 20. That's our highlight of every session because that's where the race is. We are on that race looking towards that reward. For the sake of those who did not attend in our previous session, we'll just give you a highlight of what that's all about. And we are going to talk about how to build a sustainable economy. And we will look at examples of countries that have done that successfully. We just don't want to miss that. So we will not really only learn about how the other countries have managed to establish a sustainable economy, but we will draw from the lessons that we have learned from them. We are also going to talk about the port of entries. What is our port of entry as the African continent? And we are also going to talk about the energy economy, which is our superpower as the continent right now. And those who still have a problem with onboarding on Rollet, we are going to do that at the end. Yeah, it is very interesting. I know most of us, or all of us here in this session today, we are on the race. The race is on to the top 20. If you don't know the top 20, wait a little and you will know. Or if you went through our previous recording, you will know exactly what the top 20 is. The top 20 is happening. We will see the verdict. The verdict is going to be on the 31st of August, where we will be having the recognition awards, where we will be recognizing and celebrating the women in the energy. We're calling it future energy because we're talking about an energy technologies. We're talking about how to position the energy for the future going forward. The name of the awards is WIFE Awards, Women in Future Energy Awards. And after those awards, we are taking a trip to Dubai and India to go and meet our partners who will be developing our metaverse with us. So it's quite interesting. So if you are part of this session, consider yourself very much, I don't want to say favored, but it's such an honor being part of this. It comes with a lot of perks. Moving forward, all right. So how do we build a sustainable economy? That's what we want to know. From this point moving forward, we do have resources that we can use. We do have the tools, but how we need now the strategies on how we can build a sustainable economy using our energy. Remember the Great Wall of China? you probably might not know, or you probably might know what the Great Wall of China is. It's a long wall, the longest wall in the world, that stretches up to 21,196 kilometers. Imagine that's a distance that could cover a drive from South Africa in Cape Town to Cairo in Egypt and back. That's how long that wall is. I mean, imagine traveling from Cape Town to Cairo and back. How long that would take you? It would probably take you 30 days. If you're traveling at 120 kilometers per hour for at least 11 hours a day and having maybe a few hours rest. But if you're walking, it would take you 18 months or 1.5 years walking through that wall. Now, why are we mentioning this wall? The Wall of China, it's called the Great Wall of China because one, yes, it is the longest wall in the world. It is one of the biggest port of entry because that wall was put there as a borderline between China and their enemies. So, when we're talking about real long walk to freedom, that is what we're talking about. And that is what China built. And they took 2,000 years, 2 centuries building that wall. For what, really? Why would you take 2,000 years building a wall? Does it serve a purpose or does it defeat the purpose? So why did they put that wall there? They put that wall there because they wanted to protect their people from the enemy. They wanted to protect their country from invasion, from being invaded by their enemy. They wanted to save time fighting the enemy and use that time to start building their economy. And we know that China has also been one of the poorest countries in the world, but now its economy is 20% larger than that of the US economy. Imagine, how did they get there? First, they protected their port of entry. That Great Wall was their port of entry, their physical port of entry. So they decided to protect that so that they can have time to start building their economy. And as a result, since 1978, they started rebuilding their economy. And that resulted in them uplifting 800 million people from poverty. They actually lifted them out of poverty. Imagine 800 million. China is 1.4 billion people strong, and that's over 60% of the people they managed to save from poverty. That says volume. So now, the reason why they built that wall, because that wall was their port of entry to protect themselves and give themselves much time to start working on their economy. Now, there is one thing I'm going to repeat, which I think I said last session, is there are two major elements or factors that help in building a strongest economy. It is the numbers and it is the resources. China's got the numbers, 1.4 billion people strong. So it has to protect that because it is or it forms part of their economy. And if they don't protect their people, if they don't protect their numbers, then they don't have an economy or they can't really build a strong economy. So they sat and strategized and planned and thought, okay, we have an advantage by our side and we need to find ways of taking advantage of that, what we have, and make something more meaningful for us. So knowing that they have that strongest ability or advantage, then needed to protect it so that people from outside does not come and abuse what they have. And there is a second port of entry that they build. You know what? Because as we move with time, things change. Technology, it innovates every now and then there's new innovations driven by technology. So things don't stay the same. Now they see themselves fighting yet another beast. They've built their wall, it served the purpose, but only for a short time. And now they are faced with yet another challenge where now their people that they were protecting through that wall are exposed because of the open communication and social spaces that have gone digital. Now, their people could manage to talk to a person in the US, in the UK, in Africa, being in China through the social media networks like your Zuckerberg, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp. What did they do? They built yet another wall. Now, to protect their second port of entry, which is now their people and the communication, the digital, they fought the physical port of entry. Now they are faced with the battle of a digital port of entry. Now they need to protect that as well. So here they are building yet another wall, another Great Wall of China, which is the digital Great Wall of China. What is that? Now they built WeChat. WeChat became their Great Wall of China that was warding off enemies outside of their country. So they chased away WhatsApp, they chased away Facebook, they chased away Instagram, Twitter, Google, they chased away all of that because to them, that was an intruder, or those were intruders. They were intruding in their space, trying to attack their economy through their people. So they had to quickly close that and put a borderline right there. So they built this unapologetic super one in all app called WeChat, where now in this WeChat, you see it's a social app, it's a commercial app, it's a banking app, it's a financial app. Everything here, you do everything here. And they did all of that without being disturbed by people from outside other countries. So they managed to build a sustainable economy because they protected, or they are still protecting, their port of entries. Their physical one, now the digital one, which is the socio-economic border or port of entry. So they managed because now they've got WeChat, which is used by almost everybody in China, and they can control that. There's no censorship there. There is no fear of being targeted there. It's all within. They realize that they have everything that they needed. And the best thing that they've ever done for themselves to rise their economy was to position themselves as the manufacturer of the world. Every single world has Chinese products, whether it's clothes, whether it's machinery, whether it's food, but one way or the other, each country has Chinese product because that's how they have positioned themselves. And that's how they manage to build their economy. Because now, if we want machinery, we want equipment, we want clothing, we want what? We go to China. We can't help it because they have built themselves in a way that they become the go-to place for those kind of things. We want cars, electric cars, we want this. We go to China. And China has everything. If you want quality, you will get it in China. If you don't want quality, you want cheap stuff, you will get it in China. You will get almost anything and everything that you want from China. So that they built their sustainable economy by protecting their port of entries. Now there's yet another port of entry that came. China saw that the fiat money or the paper money is collapsing. So they quickly had to do something. There's one thing we need to remember about China is they plan years ahead. Whatever it is they're implementing today, they planned it 100 years ago, not today. If they could manage to build a wall for 2,000 years, what would stop them from planning 100 years ahead of time? You see, so that's how they are getting it. And that is why they managed to rise so fast. We think it's fast because we did not see the strategy when they were building that wall, that this is where they were getting into. So China has become the first country in the entire world to introduce and launch a CBDC, their digital yuan, which is a central bank digital currency. They did that unapologetically. And what does the world do? The world is playing a catch up right now because it's only waking up now to the realization that the fiat money is going away, it's collapsing. You see, so China is a pioneer of so many things. And the rest of us, there's nothing we can do but to follow. They are the leaders, whether we like it or not. Why? Because they worked hard for that. They strategized for that. And they did whatever they could to protect their resources and to protect their numbers. Because every world, every country, they need numbers. You can have everything you want, you can have goods, quality, and everything, but if you don't have the market, you got no business and there's no economy because who are you going to sell it to? You see, so even if China does not sell outside China, they still make money. They are self-sustainable. China, together with India, they managed to build for over 500 million entrepreneurs. Imagine that. And they were able, and China has been able to lift 800 million people out from poverty. What other country has done that? Now we have covered three port of entries: the physical, which is the Great Wall, the digital, which is the socio-economic one, the WeChat, and now they had to build yet another wall through their judiciary system. Their justice system is very strong. So now they had to build yet another wall around their legal port of entry. China is the only country in the world that has the most active death penalty. They are still practicing death penalty to this day in China. According to the Amnesty International, China executes more people than the rest of the world combined each year. That's China. So that is yet another port of entry because if you have a weak justice system, then you have every other country coming into your country doing as they please, going in and out as they please, bringing whatever they want. We have South Africa and other parts of Africa full of drugs. Why? Because our port of entry have not been secured enough to make sure that that does not happen or it happens to a certain limit. You see, there is no way you can build a sustainable economy with a weak legal system like that. If a criminal has done some offense, they deserve to be punished. And if there is no punishment, there is no consequence, there won't be any economy. Because now we will have a country full of drugs, we will have our youth, large numbers of our youth dying, we will have people who do not have jobs, who are incapacitated because of drug addiction, substance abuse. We cannot build an economy like that. So China did all of that. They fought all those four port of entries: the Great Wall, the WeChat, the digital yuan, and their legal system. Done. Sustainable economy, no doubt. What lessons can we learn then from China and how they built their economy? Right now, we know that when China sneezes, the rest of the world catches the flu. We have seen that in COVID. It was very clear and vivid. The rest of the world was in standstill, but China was moving, manufacturing for the rest of the world, for the rest of us. Why? Because they plan ahead. So we can learn from planning ahead. We can learn from being firm with our borderlines, our boundaries, and our port of entries. We can also learn from them as the pioneers because they pioneer something in the world as a pledge, and the world plays a catch up game all the time. We have seen that with the CBDC, their innovation, their technologies. China is one of the best countries that manufactures solar systems in the world. Most of the world buys from China. Again, pioneering, manufacturing, industrializing. That's China and their economy. And the last one is they have positioned themselves as the world's manufacturer of choice. Every country, every country has a Chinese product or goods in one way or the other. These are the lessons we need to learn from China. We need to start building our port of entry, and we need to start protecting our port of entry, because when we protect our port of entry, we protect our people, we protect our resources, we protect the elements that make up the economy. And now let's come back to Africa. We have everything that China has. And what is stopping us? I am tired. I'm tired of hearing people saying Africa is poor. I'm tired of hearing that. It's time for us to start looking at what we have and how we can use what we have to build what we want for our future. Now, let's go to now how we can build our own. Oh, now, learning from China, we have learned from China and their audacity and unapologetic moves. We need to practice that. Yes, now we need to get to how we can start building our sustainable energy economy and energy ecosystems. Right now, we have a resource, which is the sun. That is our superpower. Now, how do we use that resource, which is the sun, to build a sustainable economy? Let's look at the port of entries that we have. Do we have port of entries? Yes, we do. We just like China, we do have our own physical port of entry. We do have our social, our economic, our capital port of entries. But are we protecting them? Have we built them enough that they can serve us as a continent and as our countries in Africa? Physically, we've got a port of entry, which is our numbers. Are we protecting our numbers? Socially, we need a port of entry that is going to be our own WeChat, our own social media. Right now, we are moving into the metaverse. We need our own metaverse as a port of entry. Last session, we talked about Rolet as our social port of entry. How many people know about Rolit, Africa's social network platform? Very few. Hundreds of people, maybe, who know about it. We have over 1 billion people in the continent. And not even a fraction of that knows about our own Africa's social network media called Rolit. That is our port of entry. If we can start building that port of entry and protecting it and stop exporting our numbers to Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we need to stop exporting our numbers to YouTube, TikTok, and all of that. Let's start protecting our port of entry, because as long as we keep exporting our numbers, giving off our numbers to the outside world, we will never be able to build our economy, because we are taking the resources that we have to build our own and go and build other countries' economies. We need to start protecting that. We have our third port of entry, which is our energy. Energy is our port of entry, which needs to be protected. The beautiful part of it is nobody can take it away from Africa. But it does not mean that it cannot be taken, or it cannot be taken advantage of, or it cannot be abused. It can be abused, and we need to protect that. We need to protect that part of our resource. And we have a fourth port of entry, which is the capital. Africa has got lots of money. Africa has got lots of money. I don't want to hear anybody saying Africa is poor. We don't have money. We got lots of it. And I will show you now. Why am I saying we've got lots of it? The next slide is going to show you it's a foolproof case, business case, that actually shows that we have money here. Before we actually go to our next slide, I want to emphasize this point that energy and technology are the future of the economy. And they are the future economy of this continent, the African continent. So let us be intentional in using these as the building blocks to our future economy, the energy economy. And any economy is a double-edged sword. We must remember that. It can come with good intentions, and we might have people who might want to use it for their bad intentions. We cannot run away from that. So we just need to infuse proper values, which is why by building those proper port of entry and protecting them, we will be able to use technology effectively. And we don't want to just assemble finished goods. We need to use technology. So we need to do technology transfer. So if we are bringing goods and machinery and equipment into our continent, let whoever brings or gives or supplies us with that also come and transfer the skills, the knowledge, and the technology so that we can start building our own. We can start industrializing our continent. We can start manufacturing, as it has been predicted that we are the next big manufacturer of the world. So we need to start by building on these small little blocks. All of this, it does not require us to reinvent any wheel. It only requires the technology transfer because everything has been done. It's a matter of piggybacking on those who have already done it to save time. So it can be done. It will be done. We just need to make sure that we know what we want. Now, the next slide is going to tell us exactly, it's going to show us basically that Africa has got lots of money. So we've got the numbers, we've got the money, we lack nothing. So there is nothing stopping us from building this economy using our energy resource. There is nothing stopping us from building this energy economy. What stops us? I'll show you exactly what it is that is stopping us from building the type of economy that we want. Some of us in the audience might be familiar with his face. He claims he is Mr. Blake Young from China, and he claims to be the owner and the CEO of QZ Asset Management. It is people like these who make us realize that Africa has got lots of money. It is people like these who are waking us up from that realization that as an African continent and as an African people, we've got lots of money. Why and how did he make us aware? He made us aware because he came here with his company in August 2022, which is last year. In a very short space of time, hardly 6 months, his company had already made almost 900 million US dollars. And that translates to almost about 20 billion rands of people's savings, which are now gone today. 20 billion rand in 6 months. And he's not the only one. There's another one called Barry who also took billions of monies from this country. And they are targeting Africa, especially South Africa. Why? Because we do not have port of entry. He's from China, he's Chinese. They have all these port of entries, and he knows. He knows that if he could have done this in China, he would have faced a death penalty. There was no way he would even attempt to do such a thing back in his country. But now they have seen that Africa has no boundaries. Africa has no borders. Africa has no port of entries. Yes, they are. We do have all of that, but they are not protected. They are open and bare for everybody to come and just take and take and take. Until when? When are we going to let people come into our countries and take and leave? He's not the last. Probably he's busy cooking another scheme as we speak that is going to introduce us something else, and we're going to fall for it. We always fall for these scams. We don't learn. We don't want to learn. Why? Because we are lazy to think. We are lazy to think and strategize. We don't have patience. China plans 100 years before they could implement. That's patience. If they could build that wall for 2,000 years, it tells you that they've got patience, something we don't have as an African people, which is something we need to start practicing. Because if we are to build an economy, we need to have patience. We need to stay away from instant gratification. We need to stay away from being victims. And we need to stop saying we are poor. Because if we are poor, which means we are making ourselves poor, there's no other explanation. But QZ Asset Management, Berry and Triple M and Kippy and all those other scams, they're not the only ones coming and taking advantage of our weakened port of entries. Now we have yet another group of people who are coming and taking advantage of Africa and the resources that we have. We have yet another threat to our economy. Taking out the QZ, the scams, all that fraud, we can deal with that. But now here is another one. We have this resource called the sun, which we can produce solar energy out of it. And that's our superpower as Africa, because we hold 60% capacity to harvest the sun in the country, in the entire world. And now people, it's an energy rush that now, especially the solar rush. It's a solar rush. Every people, they are coming in. It's not only Chinese that are coming in. We have all these other countries coming into Africa, taking advantage, taking as they want and exporting the money out of the continent, using our resource. When are we ever going to wake up, Africa? It's time. It is time for us to really start waking up. Now we have crowdfunding platforms. The continent is infested with crowdfunding platforms. We all know what a crowdfunding is. It's where those little investors are putting together their little monies to form a mammoth capital base and do massive things and invest in massive projects. We've got that capacity. If we could raise 20 billion in 6 months, why can't we raise that 20 billion for ourselves? Now we've got yet other platforms, countries that are coming in and ripping Africa off. And we are still sitting and folding our arms. We have energy crowdfunding platforms in Africa. They're coming in every single now and then. We own the sun as a resource, but our sun is under threat. Why? Because if we don't have a port of entry, we don't have an economy. We are deep in the fifth industrial revolution, and we could use the energy as our what's this word now? We can use the sun to step up, for lack of a better word. This English sometimes. But we can use the sun as our resource to step up and to be our springboard. But what we're doing, we are letting other people come and take advantage of our only resource. The sun is our only hope as Africa. And if we fail to use the sun resource, we are doomed. And as far as we can see now, the fifth industrial revolution is probably the last industrial revolution we will ever see. It is probably the last, because now the fifth is the convergence of the physical and the digital worlds. What else would we see after that? Right now, we know that the digital and the physical have to coexist. We are in that era, and energy is at the center of everything, because this fifth industrial revolution is energy intensive. It needs energy. The fifth industrial revolution is running on energy. It is running on digital currencies, your cryptocurrencies, which the crypto mining takes up a whole lot of energy. We cannot run the fifth industrial revolution without energy. That's impossible. And we need to have as clean energy as we possibly can. But we cannot if we still have people who are coming in and taking advantage. I will just make you a few examples of the crowdfunding platforms that have entered into Africa just in the space of 5 years. We have Energy Africa. They established themselves in 2020. It's a French owned solar company, and they've already raised about 100,000 or 2 million rand in 7 hours. 7 hours they raised 100,000 US dollars or 2 million rand. Imagine if they could be raising 2 million rand every 7 hours, how much money they would raise in a month or in 6 months. Where's that money coming from? And their crowdfunding, they only need an investor who can invest a minimum of $1. We all have $1. We all can invest $1. Very simple. But where is this coming from? It's French owned, not African owned. We have yet another one called Trine and Solarize Africa. They've partnered together to come and invest in Africa in the solar space. But Trine is a Swedish platform. And Solarize has got its base, its headquarters in Mauritius. And they have opened offices in Africa so that they can have presence here. If you are to invest in their crowdfunding platform, you need about 25 euros, which most of us as Africans can afford. We have the third one, Energize Africa. It was established in 2017. It is UK owned. It's people powered finance. Its finance is powered by the people, the OPMers of people's money. They've managed to raise at least 83 million euros, and they are investing all that money in Africa. And if you are to go and invest in their crowdfunding platform, you probably need to have £50. We can afford that. If we can afford 50 US dollars or 100 US dollars to choose that management, we can afford this as well. The last crowdfunding platform that has seen its way in Africa. It's called the Sun Exchange. The Sun Exchange was established in 2014, and they are based here, but its roots are in the UK. Now, can we see? This has UK roots. The owner of the Sun Exchange is a UK citizen, but he is here in Africa raising funds and investing here in our solar projects. Now, what do we make of all of this? It's another port of entry that is invaded. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about that? They've raised 6.9 million. And if you are to invest in their crowding platform, you probably would need about $5 to invest. You see, all these monies, these little monies that you can invest in these crowdfunding platforms, which is not bad. But at the end of the day, where does that money go to? They will come and put in solar. Yes, they will give us solar. But now, who takes a big chunk at the end of the day? It's their companies, it's them. So again, the money is being exported outside our continent. Africa, wake up. It's time. We wake up. And it is the reason we are having this masterclass. We need knowledge, we need information, we need the skills, we need the strategies. We need to get together and start working and wake up. But why are they targeting Africa? All of these countries, all of these platforms, they're targeting Africa. Why are they targeting us? Because we don't have port of entries, basically. We have broken port of entries. That's why they're able to do their pump and dump. They pump whatever they want to do and they come and dump it here. They pump their stocks and make it look like they have so much value, and you go and buy their stocks and boom, you lose. So our border security is compromised. There's no proper control in every port of entry that we have. So it's easier for people to come and do as they wish. People are running for our numbers and our capital resources because we've got a huge number, 1.4 billion people as a continent. That number gives them lots of data that they can go and set and make money. Big data. Together with artificial intelligence, they can do all of that in Africa. The capital resources, the financial resources, the natural capital resources. We have it all and we are giving it away. That's why they are coming to Africa. We have a weakened justice system. Criminals here, they don't really bear the consequences of what they do. They normally get away with their crimes, especially if they are not from the country or they are not from the continent. So we have a weakened justice system. That's another port of entry that is not protected. We have blurred communication borders. That port of entry, the communication, the social media space, we don't have it at all. And if we have it and it's African, we don't trust it, we don't believe in it, we don't have faith in it, we don't want to support it. We need to wake up. We need to change our mindset. We need to start looking at things differently. We need to unlearn and relearn whatever it is that we have learned in the past. Now, what weakens our economy? We have looked at why are they doing what they're doing and how, but what is it that weakens our economy? We have already covered it. It's our weak port of entry, which is weakening our economy. That's why ports are very important in any economy, because that's where economy can be established. Because the port is where the trade, the commerce happens, is where goods come in and out of the country, is where import and export happens. And if that is weakened, then we cannot have an economy. Simple and clear. We need to start working on that. So let's look at all our port of entries. They're all weak. Our road port of entry, which is our borders, they are weak. Our sea port of entry, our harbors, our ports, they're weak. Our air borders in our airports, weak. We've got drugs coming into the country, loads and loads of it. How are they getting in here? How are they intruding and invading through all of that? All those ports of entry that we have. The road, the sea, the air, the digital, weak. We have our digital port of entry, which is social media platforms, the social network. We are going into the metaverse now. Weak or non-existent. So we have a lot of work to do. And we don't have 100 years like China. We need to act fast. Otherwise, if we don't act fast, we're going to lose it all. And probably you want to understand what a port is and how is it used. The port is a border where the control happens, where the country's control happens, the movement of goods, the control of trade, the transactions, the physical and the digital borders. We have our people. China has 1.4 billion people. population as a country. We have 1.4 billion people as a continent. So one president can manage to rule or govern over 1.4 billion people. One. And we have 54 leaders in Africa governing over the same number of people. It's time we start uniting and be one. It's time we work on a universal port of entry. It's time we start building that wall, that one great wall of China. It's time to start building our own great wall of Africa. It is time we start building that wall. And it's easy now because that wall is no longer physical, it's digital. It's time we start building that digital port of entry, that wall, and start protecting it as a one person. It's time we start having one currency. It is time we start having one border, which is a digital border. It is time that we just let go of these physical borders and just become one. If we can have this one social media platform that we can use as a continent, one, we need one, not many. We need one like China, where it has everything, and we have it. Roll it. Roll it social media platform has it all. It has your YouTube kind, it has your Facebook kind, it has your Instagram kind, it has your Spotify kind, it has your Zoom kind, it has everything in one. It has its own digital wallet. You can send and receive funds, you can transact, you can do anything. It has its own currency. It's time we start building this and own it up. Each country has to have a share in it. Let's have every country represented and be shareholders in this port of entry, the digital one, because that's where the battle is. That's where the war is right now. The war is digital. It's no longer physical. So it's time we unite and fight that battle, that war as one unity. And the only way to fight is to have one port of entry, which is a social network that we can control and own. It is to have one currency that we can control and own. It is to have one reserve bank that can be controlled here in Africa and owned by Africans. That's the time. And that time is now. And if we don't act now, then we lose Africa for good. And we're not going to cry for anybody. So, what is the next thing that we need to do? We might be asking ourselves. I think that's the next big question right now. What is it that we need to do to restore our economy? I'm just going to cover a few things that we need to do. This is going to be our new journey into Africa, or journey into ourselves. We need first to understand that energy is our next currency, and energy is our next second economy. And knowing that, we need to start protecting it by building port of entries. First, start with the socio-economic digital port of entry, which is our social media platform. Let's start building that. And let's start upgrading to the metaverse, because that's where businesses are going to be handled. Remember, long ago, you would have an office and a person would ask you, what's your office address? And that evolved into websites when we had now Web 1, the first generation of the internet, where now people was asking, okay, so what's your website address? No longer your office address, but what's your website address? And if you don't have a website, and you're running a business, how come? You need to have a website if you're running a business. So that's your website address, no longer an office address or physical address. But now we are yet evolving and transforming and transitioning into yet another phase of our technology. So now people are starting to ask, what's your Facebook page? Facebook page, they know it's your business page. So now you got to be social, not only digital, but social. So you got to be in those social spaces, in those mobile spaces. If you don't have a Facebook page, there's something, because how do you communicate with your market? How do you communicate with your consumers? How do you keep that communication intact? Because if you don't keep that close communication with your customers, you are going to lose them. You're going to lose your port of entry, your market. And now people are no longer going to be asking for your physical address or for your website or for your Facebook page. No, we are moving from that fast. Now people are going to start asking you, what's your metaverse address? What are you going to say? You're going to fold your hands? You need to position yourself now and be in the metaverse. Whether we like it or not, whether we try and deny it as much as we can, the metaverse is coming and it is here. And it is time that we start pioneering that space, get into that space. Energy and technology are our new economy right now. And if we don't use it, if we don't use those, we are going to lose our continent, our beautiful continent. Let us start working on our own social media. If you have not heard of Rollit, go visit rollit.com. It's double L and double I. Rollit.com. That's Africa's newest and slickest social media platform. Let's start building it together. If you want to find out how you can own shares in it, please make sure that you contact the Rollit support there. Leave your message on Rollit support on Rollit, and we will tell you how you can partner. We will tell you how you can be a shareholder. But there's one thing we can assure you, that every country in this continent is going to be a shareholder in that social network, and we're going to build it together. We're going to take it, we're going to upgrade it to Web3, we're going to upgrade it to the blockchain technology, and we are going to upgrade it into the metaverse together, because all of that is in place. Right now, we have gone past the time of just talking. We're not talking anymore. We are doing right now. We've got the resources, we've got the tools, we've got everything in place. We've got our own digital banking platforms, we've got our own social media platforms, we've got our own metaverse plans, and we have our people to build it with 1.4 billion people. Mark Zuckerberg is a multi-billionaire today because of our numbers. Let's start using our numbers for our own social media platform. Let's start building our own crowdfunding platform, our own energy crowdfunding platform. Let us stop being used and abused by people who come and make use of our resources and leave us high and dry. We have our own Triber energy platform, TRIBR, gotriber.com. Visit them. That's Africa's owned, homegrown energy crowdfunding platform. Stop exporting your money in other platforms and start putting and building your own. You can also own shares in Triber as well. All these platforms are built for Africa. They are built to empower our people. Anybody and everybody who is interested, they can come. We talk, we discuss, be part of it. It's everything is developed. It just needs you to come and be part and build and grow together. And this is time. And we don't want to be blaming anybody in the next few years to come if we don't if we don't take advantage of this time right now. The third one is the collateral providers. We need to start being our own collateral providers right now. Remember what our governments do when they're getting loans from other countries, foreign money? They have to prepare what is called a guarantee, whether it's a sovereign guarantee, or it's a treasury guarantee, or it's a government guarantee, but that guarantee is called a collateral and it is backed by assets. and you are part of the assets that are backing those collateral. Your number is part of the assets. Your minerals, your resources is part of the package that builds that collateral. So if the country cannot pay the debt, you are the one who is going to lose. So it is time that we become our own collateral providers, because a collateral provider has to be backed by assets, whether it is money, cash, or it is a resource, a natural resource. Now we've got the money. Why can't we use our own money in this crowdfunding platform, in Triba crowdfunding platform, put it together and collateralize and leverage our own funds? It's possible. The platform is there ready waiting for you. So let's have our own crowdfunding platforms. Let's build on them. Let's work on them. So we've got three things that we need right now. We've got our social media platform, Roll It. We've got our own crowdfunding platform, Triber, and we can build our own collateral base. Let's start doing it today. You want to partner up, you want to be a shareholder, we've got all those in place already. Let's talk. So today, this is the end of my lesson. Sorry, this is the end of the session of our masterclass session. We have learned on how we can start building our own sustainable economy. We have learned on how we need to use the future technologies to build our future energy and to build our second economy, which is the energy economy. We have learned on how we can build and protect our port of entries so that we close our noise away from our ears, away from the noise, just like China did, and start building our own. We do not have time. The only time we have is now, and time is running out, because when we wake up tomorrow, we will wake up to an empty shell of a continent. And if we don't want to be walking on eggshells of our own countries and our own continent, it's time we start acting now. As women who are attending this masterclass today, consider yourself part of all these initiatives. Consider yourself a shareholder of all these initiatives. And the only thing that is needed from you is to multiply yourself. Multiply yourself by go back and empowering your own community with this knowledge. Knowledge is power. If you don't have any knowledge, if you don't have any information about anything, you will never grow yourself. You will never build anything. So now that we are equipped with knowledge and information, and we've got the tools already that are all there waiting for us, what are we waiting for? Women are builders. It's time that we start building now. And that is why you are gathered here, so that we use our time to build. We have never really been given this time, and nobody is going to give us this time. The world does not have that time to give us the time. We don't have to ask for permission from anybody right now, because the world is not going to grant us any permission. We need to change the status quo, and we need to get up as the humanity tribe, stand together, united, and start working together and pushing this and start building our economy. We've got everything that we need. Let me see you in the next masterclass. Those who want to be left behind, I'm going to be conducting yet another session for whoever wants to be onboarded on our Roll It Social platform. I will be here for the next 20 minutes. You can stay behind and we can go through the onboarding process for our Roll It Social platform, so you can also see the features, what it has, what it can offer you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And those who will not be able to join us in the next session, thank you for being here in this session, and we shall see you next week when we are talking about the energy revolution. What is it that we need to do to be part of the energy transformation, the energy transition, and in this energy revolution, and what does it mean for us, when we're talking about the energy revolution? And once we understand that part, then we will have a full package of what is needed. And then next session, we will be talking about the criteria that you will need to use to be part of the race to the top 20, and also to be able to multiply yourself in your communities, and how you will be able to empower your communities. It was a pleasure having you, and I am looking so much forward to having you next week when we are talking about yet another strategy that we will need to use as an African continent. You stay blessed until we meet again. Thank you.